your fight stance, just your basic fight stance. Your hands are already up, you're already engaged, we're already in the fight, right? You can also learn how to do them from just your neutral, my hands are down. You can do them from the neutral, my hands are up. There are different types of positions that you can do this from, up to and including sitting down in a chair. You can do the same defense. If I'm sitting in a chair and she comes in for a punch, I can do that same defense and actually get up out of the chair with your counterattacks. Really, the only limit you have on training the different areas of disadvantage is where your imagination can take you. Eventually, you'll be able to get that shot to where I've worked my way to the side, and now I can use this person as a barrier between me and the other people.
Today we're at home in Tennessee, and David's going to teach us about the Krav Maga inside defenses.
Make sure you stick around to the end so you can get a few ideas on different training methodologies, but also to get that psychological training as well. We're not just training the body, we're also training the mind. All right, so jumping right in, the problem that I'm facing right now is that there is an attack coming along a straight line, and it's going straight towards my body. It can be going to the face, it could be going to your lower body. Right now, we're just going to play with the face as an example. So as this punch is going down a straight line, I want to be able to provide a hand defense. So that hand defense is just going to be a simple parry. If you notice, my hand is going to be kind of off at an angle. That way, when this punch is coming in, it'll help to redirect the force going off the line of my face. Now, in Krav Maga, we believe in having a 200% defense, which means that I'm going to provide a hand defense, but I don't want to just depend on that. So I need to provide a body defense as well. That way, if for some reason my hand defense is off and I'm moving offline, it helps to protect me just that much more. In Krav Maga, we believe in attacking as quickly as possible. And one of the ways that you can do this is with a simultaneous counterattack. So the option for that one is, as this punch is coming in and I'm doing my hand defense and my body defense at the same time, I'm going to be firing in that first counterattack. Now, depending on how much reach and how tall that your aggressor may be, you can go straight to the face with this. But if you notice, our arms are really close together. If she was a little bit taller, or if she had a little bit more reach on me, my arm could get caught up with hers. So it's not a bad idea to deliver that simultaneous counterattack straight to the body. The reason why we want to deliver a simultaneous counterattack is because A, I need to turn the aggression in my favor, but also I want to give her something to think about as I'm coming up with more counterattacks. The sooner that I can start attacking, the higher the success probability is for me. So from here, going at a slower but real-time speed is when this punch is coming in, I'm delivering this first counterattack. Now, notice with my body going offline, I'm going towards the outside of the shoulder. I want to keep that momentum going, so I'm going to step off the line. I'm going to step out of the channel here. And from here, I can follow up with whatever kind of counterattacks that I want to follow up with. My go-to is, as I'm stepping off line, I'm going to fire off another punch to the face. And then from there, you can follow up however you need to. Another version of this is with a counterattack about a half of a beat behind the first initial defense. So when this comes in, instead of going simultaneous like I did before, I'm going to wait on this retraction, and I'm going to follow that in with my counterattack. Notice where my other hand is. In here, we'll switch the angle so you can kind of see a little bit better. Once this punch is coming in, I'm still providing the same hand defense. I'm providing the same body defense. As this is coming in, as she's going on this retraction, I want my hand to follow hers. Now, the reason that I want to do this, I don't want to hold on. So as this is coming back, I don't want to hold on to this. I don't want to try to push this. I don't want to give any force, per se, from my side. But I want to keep my hand on this so I know exactly where this is at all times. That way, when I go to deliver this counterattack, I know where this hand is. You get some people that are a little bit more crafty and they could throw like a double jab or a double cross or whatever, right? I don't want to allow myself to get jammed up, right? And end up getting hit in the process of making my counterattack. So a little bit more fluid as this is coming in, right? I want to keep that check on that hand, but I'm delivering that counterattack. Notice also that I'm still stepping off the line. What I want to try to do whenever I'm providing any kind of defense is I want to put myself in a better position. So far we've gone over the simultaneous counterattack, and we've gone over the counterattack being about a half beat behind. Another one that I want to go off of is going to be using the whole forearm as the tool for the inside defense. So as this punch is coming in, it's still going to be that same straight punch. I'm actually going to use this whole forearm as a way to redirect this punch. Now, a couple of things are happening here. For one, my hand is coming up and my palm is going to be facing in towards my face. My elbow is actually going to lead the way on this. And the reason being for this is if I just come right here with my forearm, it doesn't really do much to redirect the force of this punch going offline. If I allow my elbow to lead the way, it moves my body naturally to where I'm already getting offline, but it's also doing more to help redirect the force off of the line of my face. Now, when I do this, it's kind of hard to throw that simultaneous counterattack. So that's not going to happen. But as this punch is redirecting in, I'm going to do the same hand follow and follow up with that counterattack on that retraction. Right there. Now, after I throw this counterattack, again, I'm always wanting to go to that better position. There is no reason to stand here and go toe-to-toe, especially if your aggressor is bigger and stronger, maybe faster. Again, you don't know their skill level. So what I'm trying to do is at all times, I'm trying to get to this outside shoulder. If I could do something to get even more towards the back, that's going to be better. But also keep in mind that we're training for reality here. Anytime that I move, if we're engaged in this fight, my aggressor is going to move toward me, right? So if I move offline, you're not just going to stand there and be a nice Krav Maga demo dummy and let me just do all my counterattacks and look really good for camera, right? We're training for reality, so it's good to keep in mind that as I move, my aggressor is going to move in towards me. So I have to be able to use that knowledge to be able to make myself a better self-defense practitioner. The last inside defense that I want to talk about is going to be from the oh shit response. And from here, my hands can be up. Chances are they're probably down because, again, I'm being caught off guard here. And as this punch comes in, I'm actually going to lean my body back because, again, it's the oh shit defense. And allow me to demonstrate the oh shit. Oh shit, right? That's the type of scenario that you're finding yourself in. So as this punch is coming in, it's catching me completely off guard. So I'm bringing my body back just out of a natural reaction. I am bringing this hand up, which is providing this inside redirection. At the same time, because all of my body weight and essentially all my force is going backwards, I want to kind of step just a little bit and give that front kick. That step is going to give me the chance to create distance. That front kick is going to allow me to give you something to think about. And then I can kind of reset and reorient and be able to further engage if I need to. Sometimes in that type of situation, when you do the oh shit defense and you provide that, having that backward force and also coming in with those types of counterattacks can give you the chance to get away if you have that opportunity. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that the problem is taken care of before you try to run away. If I'm in this situation and I've kicked and I try to run, but I haven't really taken her mind off of the situation at hand, there's a chance that they may run after you, right? So in this situation, if I can get away, if for some reason they go down or they decide that they don't want to continue attacking, then obviously run away. If I have to re-engage, this gives me the space, the distance, and the time to where I can re-engage if I need to.
How would somebody sneak, like how would that, if they're coming at you to punch you, are they like walking up like this probably?
Could be. It could be it could just be an error of measuring the situation, right? Yeah. It could be one of those types of situations where I think we're just going to talk and maybe it's not quite getting heated yet or whatever. And you try to sneak in that lucky, oh shit, right?
Yeah, I see.
Right?
Always wondered about that.
And guys tend to do this a little bit, right? We'll be at a bar, we'll be, somewhere like that. And hey, maybe I don't like the way you're taking all the women's attention or, whatever.
It's a monkey dance.
It's a monkey dance, right? And sometimes it will precede a push, right? There might be that push and then that wide punch, right? just because this isn't a punch coming at me, that push could still be on that straight line.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be the defense. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, is that right now we're training this defense against a punch, a straight punch going straight to the face. It doesn't necessarily mean that this only works with the straight punch. And what I mean by that is there's different classifications when it comes to an attack that's being delivered. It could be on a straight line, right? It could be on a circular line, right? It could be coming up, it could be going down, right? This type of defense works really well against attacks coming on the straight line. So if you're going to push me, right, I can use that same inside defense. If you're going to choke me, I can use that same inside defense, right? If you're going to punch me, obviously we've already gone through that. We don't need to do that again. If it's a kick being delivered on the straight line, right, I can actually use a different version of that inside defense, right, if my hands are down. If you're going in for a stomp kick, you can do the same thing, right, using that forearm defense. What I'm trying to say is that just because we're doing an inside defense against a punch in training doesn't necessarily mean that it only works against a punch. It can work against any type of straight line where you have to redirect that force and be able to get to the outside.
So why would somebody use the parry as opposed to the forearm, or the forearm as opposed to parry? Like, why are there two different options?
Now that's a really good question, and the answer can be kind of simple, but it could also be kind of complex. And the simple answer is when we're surprised, we have this initial flinch response, which is, oh my God, we put our hands up in order to subconsciously protect our face, right? You learn the hand defense whenever you're first starting out in Krav Maga, because it doesn't take a whole lot. You're already going to do this as a natural flinch response. We modify it just a little bit. We add that body defense, which allows it to be a very effective form of redirection of that punch. Now, as you progress through the system, then we start using the forearm for the redirection, because your skill is growing. And what this does is this actually helps. I can use it for the straight punch straight to the face, but also if the punch is going to my body, or I don't really know exactly where this punch is going to go, the length of the forearm allows for me a wide margin of error. So if I don't know exactly where this punch is going on this level, I can still use this long forearm and provide a decent amount of coverage for my body. Not to mention, we also use the same forearm defense for defending or redirecting like a straight stomp kick into the body. So if that kick is coming in, right, I use that same forearm defense, and again, it gives me a wider margin of error. But also for other attacks, such as like the straight knife stab and so forth, we use this. Whenever it comes to Krav Maga, the more buffer for error that you could provide, the better it's going to be. And especially when it comes to a knife, if I try to catch a knife stab with my hands or something like that, chances are I'm probably going to get cut pretty bad, because I'm using a narrow object to address a very sharp, narrow object. But if I use that forearm, again, it's going to cause my body to go offline. But at the same time, I have that wide margin of error. Now, when it comes to Krav knife defense, I don't always teach this to my students, and the reason is very simple, and it's because I've trained in pekiti-tirsia for a good amount of time. And I believe that if you are looking to provide some sort of training, right, that specializes in a certain area, you should probably go to something that specializes in that area. So when it comes to bladed weapons, when it comes to blunt weapons, I mean, that's what the Filipino martial arts is all about. If you want to learn how to grapple and defend yourself on the ground, I mean, that's what you have Jiu Jitsu for. If you want to be a really good striker, you can learn Muay Thai and stuff like that. Now, Krav Maga, it provides a good amount of this type of training. However, I do believe that there is other training out there that might be just a little bit more efficient. And when it comes to offering things to my students, I want to offer the best information that you can find out there. When it comes to combat application, when it comes to somebody's got their hands on you and you're trying to defend a grab or something like that, there's absolutely nothing else better out there than Krav Maga. Krav Maga was born for this type of scenario. Not only that, but Krav Maga was also built to be able to not only build a really good foundation to somebody who's never trained before, but it's also built to be able to be sufficient, to be capable in a very short amount of time. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about training methodologies. Now, when you first start training this, you want to put it in isolation, right? And you want to put it with enough distance between your training partner, not your attacker or aggressor, but your training partner, somebody who is allowing you to get your reps in, right? You want to have enough distance where there's a little bit of danger, but there's not a whole lot, which means that when we're training this, we're going to start off with a little bit more distance than what we would actually need for a punch. She can barely reach me. Now, if she walked in, obviously she would hit me in the face, but that's not the intent right now. The intent is to learn the movements, right? So from here, we have this safe distance essentially, but we can work on reps, right? Once you get into that, we want to start playing with the different variations, right? I have the simultaneous counterattack, right? I have the half beat behind counterattack. I have the forearm, and I have the oh shit, right? You have these different variations. So you want to train all of these, and you want to get plenty of reps in with enough distance. After you've gotten these reps in your safe environment, then you want to kind of start upping the pressure a little bit. And the first thing that you can do with that is you can kind of take that distance away. Another thing that you can do is you could start from different points of disadvantage, right? You learn how to do these defenses with your fight stance, just your basic fight stance. Your hands are already up, you're already engaged, we're already in the fight, right? You can also learn how to do them from just your neutral, my hands are down. You can do them from the neutral, my hands are up. There are different types of positions that you can do this from, up to and including sitting down in a chair. You can do the same defense. If I'm sitting in a chair and she comes in for a punch, I can do that same defense and actually get up out of the chair with your counterattacks. Really, the only limit you have on training the different areas of disadvantage is where your imagination can take you. After you do that type of training, I would say you want to up the pressure by making it a little bit more realistic, as if you were already in the fight. And what I mean by that is we all know that my aggressor is not going to be that one-hit wonder to where she throws this perfect punch and she leaves it out there for just a little bit for me to do this defense, right? These can be coming off of jabs and crosses and all this kind of stuff. So what my aggressor is going to do, what my training partner is going to do, is she's going to pick up the speed a little bit and she's going to throw front hand and backhand, just straight punches, right? And you'll find that you're not going to be able to just like move in. Ah, shit, you know, where's my timing? You're not going to be able to move in on every single punch. That's not realistic. And I know this and you know this, right? But you want your training to reflect this. So we're here and she's just going to throw random punches and I'm just going to work on parrying, work on my head movement, work on my timing. And then as soon as I see it, that's when I'm going to go in and start providing my defense. After you do this, there's another level that you can go to that will help kind of up the pressure, make it a little bit more realistic. And so for that, what you would do is you would have your training partner put on some kind of gloves, whether they're boxing gloves, if you want to make it just a little bit easier on you in case you do get hit, and chances are you probably will because it's training and that's the point. Or you can use MMA gloves, right? But I want to have some kind of hand protection. And then I'm really going to have you pick up the speed and the power and all this kind of stuff. Now, obviously, we're going to stay protected in the way that we have something covering our fist. But if I don't move, if I don't provide my defense, I'm going to get hit right in the face.
What about headgear? Do you recommend headgear?
You can do headgear, but I wouldn't depend on it. And the reason why is because sometimes headgear tends to give us just a little bit of a false sense of protection.
Yeah.
That we can take a punch with the headgear and it's like, oh, that's not too bad. If you have on boxing gloves, I would say don't wear headgear at all, because I can take a punch from those boxing gloves and be like, oh man, I really messed up. And the lesson is learned there. But if I have the headgear, people tend, when they train with too much gear, too much of the time, they tend to get a little comfortable and they start taking shots that normally they wouldn't really want to.
Yeah.
Now, one of the last things that I would say to kind of up the training on this is that when you're doing this, have yourself a few training partners and have them put you either up against a wall or in the middle of a circle or you know, wherever your training environment allows you to be, to where you're kind of outnumbered, and have them start straight punching you. And obviously this is training, so we're not trying to do a full out melee to where you just get the crap beat out of you and you don't learn anything. But I would say put yourself in a scenario to where they're only able to throw straight punches, maybe one straight punch at a time. you can kind of ramp it up to different degrees of difficulty. But as you have more than one person straight punching you, you're having to work these parries on multiple people. You're having to be really aware of what's going on around you and who's behind you. And then eventually you'll be able to get that shot to where I've worked my way to the side, and now I can use this person as a barrier between me and the other people. I think it's a really good exercise in facing multiple opponents, because that's a very real danger. But also it's a really good exercise in learning how to pay attention to your environment and where you're at. Because again, these are the things that are going to help you with more realistic type training. All right, so in conclusion, right, we gave you the training for just a simple straight punch with a couple of follow-ups, but we also talked a little bit about training methodologies. And the one thing that I really want to stress on is that when it comes to training, and especially training for reality, right, you want to make sure that you keep it fresh, but you try to challenge yourself, right? And in doing that, again, you're only limited by what you can come up with. Put yourself in difficult situations, in difficult areas of disadvantage, and learn how to train yourself through that. That way, you know, heaven forbid, if you ever find yourself in a really bad spot, you know how to go from there. And the last thing that I want to add is that when you're training, especially if you're training for self-defense and self-protection, keep in mind that these drills at some point should make you feel uncomfortable. They should put you in a spot to where maybe you don't just immediately prevail in. You have to learn how to battle through that. So if being in the middle of a circle of people just wailing on you and having to learn how to defend off that really puts you in a very uncomfortable spot, you want to build yourself to a position where you're not as uncomfortable with that. And the only way that you're going to get that is within training.